Welcome to our second meeting. My name is Nancy Lopez. I'm the Family Engagement Resource Teacher for the district. This is our second class that we will have, that we're having. The next two classes will be next week and then the following week. Same time, 8:15, and same room, okay? So thank you for being here. Our agenda, we will do a welcoming, we'll do an icebreaker like we did last time to get to know each other a little better. We'll talk a little bit about what worked well from the last meeting. And then we will talk about the essential standard for this class, which is letters and sounds. I'll do a little modeling of what that activity will look like, and then I'll give you a chance to practice that. And then at the end, we'll just do a recap and then a summary on what to look forward to when you do this at home, okay? So before I actually do this, the icebreaker, I know you both were here last time, but a little bit about myself. I was a classroom teacher for 13 years over at Sac City Unified, and I mainly taught in primary, so in kinder, first grade. And that's where most of my teaching experience came from. And then I came on over here to Elk Grove as the Family Engagement Resource Teacher. So I do a lot of the family engagement events. These classes I also do at other school sites. And so anything that has to do with family engagement, I support the district with. Okay. I also have two daughters. I have an adult daughter, and then I have a little 4-year-old. So last time we met, we did a read aloud on Too Many Tamales, and we did a modeling of what, the strategies. So today the class is about letters, about letter recognition and letter sounds, okay? So when I say letter recognition, what does that mean? What does letter recognition mean? When the teacher says, oh, your child can recognize, 20 out of 52, what does that mean? Knowing the sounds? Okay, yeah. Yeah, those are all right. So letter recognition is being able to know the name of the letters. And the key thing about this is that they're not in order, okay? So one of the first things that children will learn is the alphabet song. And that's great. That's a good start because then they know, that the song. But then the next level would be actually knowing the letter name in isolation. So showing a child the letter, K, knowing that that's a K. And also knowing that the K by uppercase K and like a lowercase K. So knowing that they're two letters. So when we assess students, it's not just 26 letters, it's actually 52 letters because each letter counts as one, okay? So when we assess students, for the most part, we'll give them, all the letters mixed around and showing them each letter at a time and knowing that each letter has a name. And then attaching a sound to it would be the next, the next step for that, okay? So why is letter identification important or recognition? It's the building block to oral language. So when they're learning the letters and the sounds, it helps with their oral language. It's a symbolic representation because each letter has a name and has a sound, and eventually they're going to put those together to sound out and read words. It's part of early literacy. Once they know the letters, they'll start attaching the sounds to them. And letter names and sounds is the best predictor for their future reading abilities and skills. Okay, so it's important for kindergarten. It's probably one of the most important part of kinder is knowing those letters and those sounds. And then high frequency words, which we'll talk about in the next class, but that's, and then also oral blending. So knowing those letters and the sounds is what, is the building block, is what we say, of early literacy. So what does it look like to do different types of letter recognition and letter sounds, okay? So here's a little chart, and then all this chart is showing is they have all the letters, uppercase and lowercase, and then it's just cutting out letters. So this is just, again, like like a basic, recognizing letters, recognizing that these are letters. So if we back up a little bit too, like maybe like in preschool or even 2, 3 years old, we also need to let them know that these are letters and that numbers are numbers and shapes are shapes. Okay, so even just doing like a sort of that. But this one right here is already kind of knowing that these all are letters, and then we can put them, according to where they belong. Okay. This one over here is, remember I was telling you about having the letters in isolation? So randomly knowing the letter name, and do you see how there's a lowercase and then there's uppercases? So having them by themselves. A lot of times, they're always together, like the uppercase and the lowercase are together, but we also want to separate those so that they know that each letter has a letter name. This one, I love using the fly swatters because we can use those for so many things, and it encourages the movement, and little kids need to move a lot. So here just, and this is really simple, you just get a piece of paper and you write all the letters, and then as they read the letters, they hit the letter, okay? So again, it just encourages and promotes the movement. And this is just, the puzzles, when you find the puzzles and putting all those letters together. Again, it's helping them find the letters, and even though I say they should be in random order, this is a good way for them to practice looking for the letter and putting them in order, because this is a more difficult task of finding the letter and knowing what comes next, okay? And then once, I don't want you to feel that you have to just, when you practice with your child, just the letter names. Go ahead and attach that sound. A lot of times children will pick up the sound before they even pick up the letter name, because the sound, it's almost like how do I say this? It's more musical, I think, and so then that's why they pick up the sound sometimes before they even pick up the letter name. So doing both is fine, okay? So here's just a little bit more advanced example. So here, they have to actually know that these words start with those letters. And we're going to do something similar to this. This is a little bit different. This is more of an environmental print, but also knowing that, like for example, my daughter, one of the first things she recognized as we were driving was Starbucks. So she knew by looking at the sign that that was a Starbucks. And so that we call environmental print. So it's it's symbols that children will recognize. So like Target, or Walmart, they'll know that that's a Walmart and that's Target because of the symbol. And that's reading to children. So we just want to acknowledge that, oh yeah, you're reading that sign. But you can do something similar with that too, and then attaching, the letter with the first letter of those symbols or those environmental prints. And then this again is like another book too. Again, this is something we're going to practice right now, is finding images that start with that letter, okay? Any questions with these examples? These are all things, that we can do at home, and it doesn't, require too much of, we don't need to get fancy with kids. Anything that involves them cutting or little books like this, they love because it's just more meaningful to them. Okay, so what I brought today is a book. It's a little ABC book, and this is just the example, but I'll give you a blank one to work on right now. So here I have 3 different levels, okay? So just depending on where your child is, I'll give you 3 different stages, and then you'll decide where your child is. So for this first one right here, it's just cutting out letters that start with that letter page. Okay, so here it's just different A's and just putting them on the pages. So if your child is just a beginning stage of letter recognition, we can start there. This next one is finding words or names that begin with that letter. So here I have August, and then Annie's and Aquafina. Just so that they see when they're looking at the images, like, oh, that starts with the letter A, okay? So that's this part right here. And then this one is a little bit more advanced. This is actually knowing that this begins with the letter A. So this one, they would have to kind of know that, what the letter A, what the sound is, okay? Now, you can do all three of these if you feel like, I think my child can do this, or you can just start with the cutting out the letters in isolation and just putting them on here. If they are not able to actually write the entire word, that's okay. Maybe just starting with like the letter A, or letting them sound out. If they're already here and they're sounding out the word, let them sound it out. And then the other thing too is let them sound out and write it phonetically, okay? I know that for a lot of people it's like, but that's not spelling it right. Should we tell them how to actually spell it? For little kids, I would say just let them use their sounds. So like apple, if we go, everyone say apple. Apple. Okay, and then stretch that sound out. So it's a, p, o. So how do you think a child would write that using sounds? So the first letter would probably be A for A, and then P would probably be P, and then O. Yeah, so they might just write apple with 3 letters. If it makes sense to them and they're using those sounds, that's okay. Okay. I mean, we don't want that to happen when they're in, 3rd grade or 4th grade. At that point, like, they should know how to write the word apple. Another thing you might want to do if you feel like, okay, I think my child is ready to see the correct way, is pointing it out. So like if it's on the grocery store ad, just telling them, oh, apple is written here. Okay, find it and see if you can find it, and then they'll see. Rather than us telling them how to spell it, because then they'll become dependent on us, and they'll always ask, how do you spell this? How do you spell this? And it will never come from them, okay? So if they're using their sounds, that's okay. Let them write their sound. Let them write the word phonetically, okay? Any questions with that part? No? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pass out the bags. In your bag, I included the sounds and spelling cards that the district uses for the curriculum that we use, which is Wonders. So your kinder teacher should have given you this. Or if you've also noticed, it's also, this classroom doesn't have it, but it's usually up on the wall. So these are the same cards that they use, okay? So that's one of the things that I will encourage you to do is if you show your child, let's just say the letter F, like in isolation, if you show them, okay, what letter is this? And they don't know that letter, have them go back and find it. Okay, so one of the things that I do with my 4-year-old is if she doesn't know, like I said, the letter F, I'll say, okay, go through the alphabet and stop at this letter. So then she'll go back and she'll go A, B, C, D, E, F. So then it's her, she's finding the letter rather than me telling her. Because they should, how I was telling you about the song, the alphabet song, how most children will learn that. Having them go through that and then finding it. Another thing too is having them point to each letter as they're singing so that they hear and they're pointing and they're looking at the letter. Okay, so that's another way of practicing the letter recognition. So that's in your bag. And then I always include the instructions. So if they go to grandma's house or babysitter's house, they'll have on how to do the book. And then I also included a glue stick and scissors. Today we can use the ones that are in the baskets, and then these you can take home. But we'll use the ones there so that you're not, you don't use the glue sticks, the new ones. So what I want you to do is I also brought the grocery store ads. So I want you to cut a couple of pictures. Just randomly cut pictures, or if you want to, start with the letter A page like I did, you can also do that. But just cut different pictures. That way when you do go home and you're showing your child the book, you already have a start on some of these pictures, okay? You don't need to go in order you don't need to go A, B, C, D, if you want, again, cut a couple pictures, ask them, what is this? And then, if you happen to cut, pear, oh, it's pear. Well, what letter does pear start with? And they say, oh, it's P. So then they can find the letter P and then, glue the picture on that letter P. If you cut just letters out, also asking them, well, what letter is this? And then having them find it, okay? Some children I know are very structured. And so I know I have heard that some children do want to go letter by letter by letter, and that's okay. Just letting them pick how they want to do it is fine, okay? So any questions on what we're going to do? No? So yeah, so cut out as, I know with like if you can ask, your children to help you with this. So I'll go ahead and pass out the bags. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll go ahead and have you stop so that we can share out. So on the first page on her book, she cut out water for A because in Spanish it's agua. And so agua starts with the letter A. So I do want to encourage you that if your child knows it in Spanish and they say, oh, that's agua, agua starts with the letter A, to let them use that because that's how they know what that is. And in Spanish, a lot of the letters and the sounds are pretty similar. So as long as they know what that letter, what it starts with, then go ahead and let them use that word. My daughter, for the longest time, cucumber, she knew it as pepino. And so she would, when she would say, oh, that's pepino, that's a pepino. And so not until like later on she found out, in English that it's cucumber. So it's okay. Let them use how they know it, okay? Anything else? What did you do?
Leche.
Leche, milk, good.
Naranjas. Oranges, naranjas.
Yeah. So then, yeah, with all those pictures you cut out, you can just show your children, like, okay, let's see, what is this? Or what do you think this is? And then asking them, well, what does it start with? And then going into your book and having them glue that, okay? If your child is ready to write the words, how like I have it right here, let them do that too. If they're not, it's okay. You can always go back when they are ready. So if you finish the book and they have all those pictures in there, go back to the book and then just now start having them write those words in, okay? Any other questions with this? Or comments or something that, that you think, oh, I don't know if this is, or something else that you can do? The grocery store ads, I usually just start collecting them as they come in the mail. Like I have a bag in my car, and every time I go to the mailbox, I usually drive up to the mailbox, and then I just start putting all those grocery store ads in there. Or when I go to the grocery store, I'll pick up, a couple. And then right now, during this time, most stores will come out with like a Christmas catalog of toys. So that's another good one to save. And you can use, the way I would use that in the classroom is I would put those in a basket, all those catalogs, like the Target, catalogs. And I would give, then I would put writing paper and pencils, and the scissors and the glue, and the students would cut out the pictures and write, or do a list of the toys they wanted, or, a letter to Santa. It's just a way to encourage them to write, and they get really excited, over things like that. So that's just another thing we can do with our children. So with this, just to kind of recap, what will we help our children with at home with this activity? Just to kind of recap, what is it that we're talking about? So I know it's fun for them, but what is it that we're encouraging them to practice? Yeah, letters with pictures, yeah, and the sounds too, yeah. Good. And how many times a week do you think you can do this at home, this activity? Taking into account, their homework and activities? Yeah, 2 to 3 times a week. Good. Yeah. Yeah, don't have them sitting for like 30 minutes every day doing this. It's just, encouraging them to whenever they want to. Good. Okay, I know this was kind of it wasn't as long as the last class because this was just a little bit more, I guess practical maybe, I would say. So this is pretty much it for this class, unless you have any other questions. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate you coming and learning new ways to help your children at home. Thank you.